I think that in 3 to 6 months, no one will care about SVB, right? Your life will go on. You won't remember SVB. You be on to something else. What's up, people? Welcome to this episode of the Buy the Hood podcast, or webcast, because I don't know how you're consuming this content. I'm your host, as always. My name is Jimmy, and as we start off every show, that's with gratitude. Shout out to anybody and everybody who supports what we got going on, and we still are out here working. I got my partner in crime, Cole, with me. Cole, what's up, good brother?
What's really good, man? What's really good? Every day above ground is a good day, so let's get it popping again.
Yeah, man. Listen, man. We are back on our podcast, right? So just want to catch everybody up on what's been going on. We've been doing a lot of work. We'll talk about that in the future episodes, some of the work that we got going on. But we decided to bring the podcast back. We've been on break for a couple months at this point. The reason we took a break is a lot of different reasons, right? Outside of the fact of just needing a break. One of the reasons is we want to reformat our podcast and bring it to you in a different way. And you got to be very transparent with our audience. So our podcast was used to highlight brothers and sisters who were doing positive work in the community, building businesses. And in doing so, we highlighted a lot of people who are doing great, amazing work. But to be completely honest, there's sometimes we find out that people are, for lack of a better term, not living a life that they talk about. They ain't living their raps. And also just work that doesn't really coincide with what we're building at Buy the Hood, right? So we are a community organization first and foremost. Before it has anything to do with finance and money, we are about the people. And one thing we don't want to happen is to have someone on our platform who's out there having people doing all kinds of wild stuff, and it reflects on us in a bad way. So we kind of took a step back from just highlighting people until we can do better jobs of vetting them, for one. And for two, just being more cautious with some of the people that we put on our platform. And it's not that we have the biggest platform or the greatest platform, and this is nothing about ego or anything like that. But when you do community work and you're being about the people, you have to just be a better steward of putting folks in front of other folks. You know what I mean? So, I mean, Corey, I don't know if you got anything to say about that, good brother.
No, you said it. I mean, I would have used harsher language, but that's why you do the monologues.
No, but listen, it's all love, though. With that being said, though, shout out to everybody who is in our community who does do great work, because I'm not trying to put a bad
say this. 99, we did a good job of vetting most of the folks.
Yes,
so it's only a few. It's only a few folks on our joint that's not what they said they were.
Yeah, but, and there's also episodes like we may not have even put out, like or even like interviews that we had the opportunity to do we didn't even do.
Yeah.
Because of that. So, we try to do the best job we can. But I do want to, like you said, 95% of the people are solid folks, and I do want to shout them out. And I want to, bring the podcast back by just really showing love to our community, man, because even though our podcast hasn't been going, we've been fully running. Our Friday live show every week is going on. We've been in the community. Like I said, we'll have a whole episode about some of the community work we're doing. And some of the stuff we're looking to do. But the new format of our podcast will be like this. It'll be me and Corey kind of like talking about current topics going on in the world of finance and Black wealth. We still will have guests. So it's not like we're going to get rid of guests altogether, but they're not going to be the primary driver of our Wednesday pod, right? This is episode like 186. So we do have 185 episodes, with guests talking to, various folks throughout the space. So that still will live there. But our YouTube channel has been growing tremendously, and shout out to all of our new YouTube subscribers. We really appreciate you. We got a couple thousand new subscribers since the last time we put a pod up. So that's definitely appreciated. It's growing. We love it. If you are watching this on YouTube, please share this video. All the good stuff they say on YouTube, hit the like button, all that kind of stuff.
Like, share, subscribe.
Yeah, whatever they say. We're not really YouTubers per se, but it is appreciated. Shout out to everybody from Instagram, TikTok, all the different social media sites. But, really our folks that support us day in and day out. Shout out to all y'all, man. We got nothing but love for y'all, man. But Core, man, how are you, brother?
Man, I'm living La Vida Loca, man. Like, my life look good, man. I can't complain. I mean, I could complain, but for what?
Yeah, man. Listen, you woke up this morning, so that's what's good, man. So for this week's pod and our first pod back, and by the way, leave us some comments. Let us know how you feel about the new format, some topics you may want us to discuss. If you haven't, if you have a guest that's somebody really about their life, let us know about that too. Because again, we're not getting rid of guests altogether. We're just doing a better job and not making it the primary focus. But here's a topic that we have to talk about, right? We got to talk about this bank collapse that's going on. It happened a couple days ago. By the time this comes out on Wednesday, which I believe is like the 15th or something like that. It'll probably have been a week since it happened. But nonetheless, I just want to get your perspective and kind of talk about it, and I'll give some context and then give the floor to you. So, Silicon Valley Bank is the second biggest bank collapse in U.S. history, right? And it took about 48 hours for it to happen. And yes, I am looking at notes right here because I'm not a big fan of trying to memorize statistics and data. But so the company spiral began late Wednesday, right? It surprised investors with news that it needed $2.25 billion to shore up its balance sheet, right? So this was really a bank run, an old school bank run happening in 2023. All told, customers withdrew, listen to this number, Core, $42 billion of deposits by the end of Thursday, right? And that was according to a California regulatory filing. So I gathered up a bunch of different articles and news sources to kind of try to bring the whole story together.
Yeah.
Right. But to make a long story short, this was an old school bank run. But there are a couple different pieces of data that I did want to talk about. Right. So for those who don't know, Silicon Valley Bank was a bank. You can tell by its name, context clues. Right. It's very heavy in Silicon Valley and the startup culture. And to give you a list of companies that had deposits with Silicon Valley Bank: Circle, $3.3 billion. Roku, Corey's baby there, $487 million. BlockFi, $227 million. Roblox, $150 million. We got stuff like Rocket Lab, $38 million. Lending Club, $21 million. So there's a number of, startups, tech companies with money inside of this bank, right? And that's just some of the companies that were disclosed thus far. A couple more data points, Core. I promise you I'm going to give you the floor.
That's all good.
88% of their money was in startup businesses, right? 88% of their money was in startup businesses, which is a very risky way to run a bank anyway. It had nearly $200 billion in deposits, with 97% of those deposits above the $250,000 FDIC limit. And just to give you a little context of how big this is, we remember how big of a story FTX was. FTX was $10 billion. This is $200 billion. Now, there's a difference between FTX and SVB. SVB is one of the biggest 500 companies in the country, and also
they won't be.
They won't be. It won't be
by Wednesday. They're getting taken out.
Yeah, but the FDIC is there. But remember what FDIC does cover, though. So with that being said, Corey, I'd like to get your overall thoughts before we dig into a little deeper into the story. What's your overall thoughts on this when you first heard the news?
I wasn't surprised. It's been happening a lot recently. Like you said, it started a few months ago when they started tagging some of the crypto stuff. What was the joint that we used to use for the
BlockFi, Celsius, all those
Celsius? Guys. Yeah, so they all got ran down on. Then they ran down on Binance for like 900 million with their stable coin. Then earlier, then it was the FTX joint. Then earlier this week, Silvergate, which was big into the crypto space and startup space, they got clapped on. And then Silvergate, and then this Silicon Valley joint. So it's like, I'm not surprised, because it's a lot of crypto money involved in this joint too. So I really feel like people is getting ran down on. Banks that serve the crypto community is getting ran down on to I don't know for what purpose, because I'm not the leader of the cabal that's doing this. But
I was going to ask you to get into your conspiracy theory bag for a second.
I'm not. I will get into it, but I don't really want. I don't want nobody to run down on me. But all right. So let's do this. Conspiracy theory. Me think that is that the central bank, the digital dollar, is closer than we thought.
So you think all this is like leading to that CBDC,
Yeah,
central
that
bank currency?
yeah, I think it's part of it because I think the decoupling of things from the dollar has to happen before that can come in. And
All right,
so
and you're talking about the stablecoin USDC kind of got depegged from the dollar,
yeah, but
which
I
is
think they have to do like they have to get rid of stable coins because again, this is something that I've been saying for years. The real threat um to the system is stable coins because stable coins allow people to do things outside of the system, whereas um you know the other coins and tokens, they are volatile and can be controlled by the system, whereas the stable coins and the tokens are kind of outside of the control of the system, and so that's
so
why they attack
so
those
we
first.
kind of differ in our thoughts about that just slightly. Because I feel like if they with stable coins, most of them are pegged to a network that could be shut down at any moment they want to. So I don't know how, for instance, USDC runs on top of ETH. Like, that gets into a whole other conversation. But so I think they are a threat, but not as big as a threat. But looking at this thing overall, I do think that people look at this different because it's a bank. So a lot of those other things were crypto first, although they were quote unquote banks, but they were crypto first. So people didn't kind of hold them in the same regard as they do something that's considered a bank, right? But we know that banking isn't really a structure or a place.
System.
It's a system, right? Yeah, that's a better way to put it. It's a system. Um, but this was interesting for a number of reasons. Now, this is why this is like a lot of fodder for conspiracy theories. When you look at the fact that bonuses were paid out hours before the government came in and seized everything. Folks high up on the chain.
Well, I mean, there's no conspiracy about it. Like
Yeah, I mean they would
people
take
that knew was getting their money out. Yeah, I mean, like
but straight up
the
paying
people that
bonuses.
know was getting their money. That's not a theory. See,
That
that's
is
why it's stated as a theory. That's not a theory, bro.
no, but here's the sad part about that, right? The sad part about that is there are vendors that'll be screwed by this. There's a lot of things that'll happen by this, but I think there's also lessons to be learned here, right? A lot of times when banks get exposed, even when you go back to '08, Solomon Brothers and things, and you start to look at their balance sheet, you can see why this happened, right? One of the things I've learned since the pandemic, and again, I'm always trying to constantly learn. I've been investing for decades at this point, but one of the things that I learned is and shout out to our brother Diamond Dave, man, because Diamond Dave just rings in my head all the time because he constantly talks about how bad most companies are run. He was like, look, there's a lot of great companies out here. He said, but most companies aren't run well. And most companies, to quote you, people are always going to people. So when you see these institutions that are big, right? And we talk about in our book how you put a time value on even institutions and degrees and things of that nature. You feel like, all right, so you got all this money behind you, you're going to make smart decisions. But
We can see that ain't the case.
yeah, man, people are going. People are lazy and not taking the time to make sure their money is spread out in a way that protects them. There's a lot of different even types of accounts you can get, which will protect your money that they didn't even like take the time to even get. Like, if you get to the point where you got over 250K, you can do. I think it's a thing called what's it called, an IntraFi network that protects your money. There's a lot of different strategies to do that. No one took the time to do it. And the reason I say the pandemic taught me a lot is because you started seeing under these people's skirts, so to speak, like these companies just
Pulled
don't
the
have.
hood up and you thought it was a Maserati, and then you look on the joint and it say Ford.
On a local level, I learned this about a lot of real estate investors that they weren't keeping reserves, right? On paper, they got crazy cash flow. They own a lot of doors, but they're not keeping reserves. So when one thing goes bad, and you see this at every level of business. So I think this is an interesting story. Now, here's my hot take, right? My quick hot take about this. And hear me out, right? So here's what I think. I think in 3 to 6 months, right? And I'll make sure I say this. I think that in 3 to 6 months, no one will care about SVB, right? Your life will go on. You won't remember SVB. You be on to something else. That's my hot take right there. That's not to say that there won't be more pain, because I think there will be more pain. But I think that with a lot of this SVB talk, it's just like it's the newest thing. Like, you know, you mentioned about all the other institutions that went down. I do think this is different, but I think there's more pain on the way. But this is just another road bump, dog. Like,
That's
people,
why you see I'm not all, up in arms about it and all that, but because we've been telling people these attacks are coming. We've been telling people this is coming. Like, when they started giving out money during the pandemic, this had to happen because this is part of recovering and recouping some of that cake. Like, this had to happen. So I couldn't tell you exactly who was going to get clapped and clipped, but this had to happen.
Great point, because you're absolutely right. When so much money entered the economy, it's got to be taken back out, right? And
Right.
we saw so much money enter the economy under the pandemic and so much money being printed. You got to pull back out some way, right? Because inflation is going to happen, and when inflation happens, you got listen. Rates will rise to bring inflation down, and in that process, people will get hurt. That's the bottom line. But it has to happen.
It had to happen.
You got
there was no way around none of this. Like, it could have started earlier, so we could have been further along in the process.
Mm-hmm.
But this was always going to. When they gave us that money, this was always going to happen.
And on the crazy part about, I sit there and think about, like, I think about 08, and I remember, like, back in like 05, 06, 07, when they would talk to the Fed, and the Fed would say there is no housing bubble. It went from there is no housing bubble to it's possibly a housing bubble to, oh yeah, it's a bubble, to don't worry about it, like, we're not going to suffer too bad, to yeah,
two and a half years of
we're in a crisis. Now we're in a crisis
from mid of 07 to like 2000, almost 2010, like 2.5 years of absolute chaos. Like,
look, so now when you look at what's going on now, right? Rome first said, listen, there is no inflation, right? Now then it's transitory. Like, no, it's not transitory, it is real inflation. But you know what I mean? Now they're talking about, well, we got to handle it, but we'll be okay. It's like history just repeats itself, bro. It just really repeats itself. So the bottom line is people have to get hurt in this process. There will be layoffs. I just heard that Facebook is about to do another crazy round of layoffs. That's going to be the same number as it was last time, which was like 11,000.
Speaking of that, they stopped paying for shorts.
Wow.
On Instagram and on Facebook.
Did they? I didn't even peep that. I didn't peep. No.
Yeah, they stopping all of that. So yeah, it's getting serious.
So buckle up, folks, because when I say that no one will care about SVB, what I mean is it's just a bump in the road of, but I do think that pain is on the way, right? I think that pain is on the way. So be careful in not being overexposed. Prepare yourself for the pain that's coming.
Let me look up the article and see if I can bring it up about Facebook in the with the shorts. Facebook.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this on the audio, don't worry, we'll really read out what Corey is looking up. I didn't know that they were already cutting back their income that they were paying out the creators, which is kind of effed up because I mean, Google's still cutting their checks.
All right, let me share my screen real quick.
But we'll see how things play out long term. But real quick, I want to bring this up while you pull it up on the screen. I do want to say this. One of the things about the tech sector is when things are doing well, right? Their growth is insane and it moves a lot faster than everything else. On the flip side, when things go bad, they get hit first, right? Because that's why you see so many layoffs and things like that. Because in startup culture, look, the bottom line is if I'm a venture capitalist and I'm lending money out, right? I have to make a certain rate of return. But now when it costs more to borrow money, now I need to make a higher rate of return. And you got all these artificially inflated companies out here who really don't make money. That's the thing; they don't make money. So if
those companies gonna get clapped, they're gonna get mangled.
So if I need you to now make money, and you never did make money, but now it costs me more to borrow. All right, so think about this, right? When interest rates are low, if it's costing me 2% to borrow, I might need you to make 5-6%, and I have a great investment. But now if it's costing me 6% to borrow, I need you to make 12, 15, 18%. That's a lot more difficult, especially if you're running a business and everything's tightened up on the consumer. Who are you selling to? But go ahead, though, Corey.
All right. So it says Meta will stop offering Reels bonuses to creators on Facebook and Instagram. Meta is pausing its program to pay bonuses to creators for making reels and hitting specific benchmarks. The program, originally introduced in 2021, incentivized content makers to generate more short video content. The shutdown will impact all reel creators on Facebook and US-based creators on Instagram. The Instagram program was only available for creators based in the US. This program's discontinuation, first reported by Business Insider, indicates that platforms are looking to pull back from paying creators based on the popularity of their short videos. Meta will still respect any commitment for bonuses for the next 30 days, according to the report. Meta told this publication that it might reintroduce the program in targeted ways if Reels enter a new market. But this is a strange bit to hear, given that the short video product is already available in more than 150 countries.
Wow. So, by the way, the article is from TechCrunch, and that's crazy, bro.
Yeah. Like, this is absolutely crazy. So basically it says creators got healthy bonuses under the program. Multiple creators got more than $10,000 in bonuses, with some even claiming to get $35,000 a month. Jesus Louises. Oh,
so it's a lesson here. It's a lesson here too, right? So first of all, I wonder like whether their competitors will follow suit. I know that YouTube Shorts, shout out to YouTube Shorts. We YouTube guys over here, but they've already started to pay out. TikTok has their creator fund. I wonder like what will be the effect of this. Wow. I mean, and this other lesson in this is for the creators out there that were making money like that is not to have all your eggs in one basket. Because imagine you making $35K a month and then Facebook be like, nah, we ain't doing that no more.
Yeah, man. This is one of those don't have all your money in one basket, Jones.
Yeah, and if you was making 35K, hopefully you was putting some of that up because that's a little
literally you got like to the end of the month and then your last check coming. It's like your job just told you like we laying off and all y'all getting laid off though.
Man, that's crazy. I didn't see that one, but appreciate you sharing that. Shout to TechCrunch for the article. But yeah, man. So more pain is coming, and so when I say that, I want to repeat this. When I say that we won't be talking about Silicon Valley Bank in the future, it's not that this isn't the sign of more things to come. More people will get hurt. Everything will have to be taken out of the economy. All that fake money that was put in the economy, man. So we'll see what happens in the future. There will be layoffs. More jobs will be lost. Sad to say, but this is just a fact of how it works. It's ebbs and flows. It's part of the system.
Yeah, man. So yeah, it's a lot of things happening all at one time, right? So you, like you said, you got layoffs coming. You got people who are dependent upon a lot of this stuff, right? Like those creators, that's $35,000 a month.
Yeah,
like, that's not $35 a month. It's $35,000 a month that is getting taken out of people's pockets. Then you talking about people who had money in this bank, they all getting clapped because like I was just reading an article that was saying that most of that money wasn't even insured. So yeah, it's crazy. Then you got I always want to look into the crypto sector with stuff like this. So stuff that got clapped in the crypto sector that you talked about, BlockFi Circle, also Avalanche, Yuga Labs, which is responsible for the monkeys, the
apes.
Bored Apes. Proof Labs, the other joint you was talking about, Rocket Labs. Those are all crypto companies.
But that's why I laugh, right? So my crypto journey is interesting because everyone knows me now as a Bitcoin guy because I only do Bitcoin.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
My point is this is more proof positive as to why I'm a Bitcoin maximalist at this point. Because even when it came to something that I used to love back in the day, when I looked at the different chains, the side chains of Ethereum, like they're supposed to be quote unquote decentralized, but they were pulling back and stopping things. I'm like, how's that even possible? Right?
Yeah, that's nuts.
You just proved me right. Right? So, I'm gonna leave it at that, man. But it's interesting to see this happen. It's sad though for some folks, right? So it's not all fun and games. Like, it's not just rich people losing their money because it's going to trickle down and have an effect on a lot of folks. Because you see the people at the top took their bread. They got them bonuses like before You know,
Yeah, they sold a lot of stock. A lot, like they said, 27% of the stock got sold before the collapse.
yeah.
So
So
they cashed out. They
it's wild.
cashed out and watched y'all, left y'all holding the bag.
It's wild, bro. But the one thing I do want to say about a data point that I was looking at, 88% of their money was in startups. That's why, if you looked at their books, and again, I was an investor in the bank. I didn't even care about SVB until the story popped. But when you look at the book, it's like that's a lot of exposure because now when the rates rise, you're going to be affected,
Yeah,
right?
because of these, those are a lot of companies that are not making money.
So imagine on your balance sheet, you got all these startup companies with these inflated valuations that came during the pandemic and post-pandemic, and now the true valuations are coming out, right? What's your balance sheet look like?
Oh, it had to look like absolute trash, but you know that the purpose of the bank was to do that. So I get it. You know what I mean? Like so.
You got to be a good steward of people's money, right? So so banks take risk at times, right? But a lot of times they hedge their, quote unquote, hedge. They hedge their stuff by having 88% of your money can't be there, bro.
I mean, that's if that's what the bank is for. Yeah, it can.
Yeah, and this is what happens when you do that.
Hey, listen, I am not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, if that's what they set out to do, and that's what they, because the reason why so many people had so much money in there is because that's what it was supposed to do. It was Silicon Valley Bank. You know what I mean? Like people not putting hundreds of millions and billions of dollars into a bank that's not serving that. It was put there to serve that community specifically. And
Yeah,
so
but you can do that in different ways with being a better steward and protecting folks'
I
money.
don't disagree with you, but what I'm saying is that is why it was there. Like that bank was specifically created to do that.
Listen, man, Sean Corey Carter said, man, there's only so long fake thugs can pretend.
And
So
their balance sheet proves that. They just got clapped.
all right, so with that being said, though, what are your final thoughts on this whole story, bro?
Oh, we just started. That's my final thoughts. Like this is not the end. This is the beginning. Um, it's getting hot in here. So take off all your clothes.
All right, so my
Um,
final thoughts is that I would say cash is a position. Don't be afraid to hold cash, right? When you look at your personal balance sheet, don't discount cash. I know there's this whole adage out there, cash is trash and you got to have your money to work. And I understand where people come from when they say that. But the thing about sitting on a lot of cash is when you go through situations like we're getting ready to go through, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. So patience is important and cash is a position.
you should have a cash position.
Cash is a position because it allows you, and this is someone speaking from the perspective of real estate too, right? When what you think is going to happen a lot of that real estate out there as the things start to happen. So you'll see people swoop in who have cash to be able to take advantage of a lot of situations, man. It's a reason why Berkshire sits on a ton of cash. You know what I mean? They can come in any minute and buy a percentage of an entire conglomerate. So I'm not saying that, you have to be at that scale, but it still works in your own life, man. The great thing about looking at companies is
A lot of the things they do could work in your life.
exactly. It's really just about budgeting and balancing books, right? At the end of the day, you do that in your personal life. So that's my final thoughts is don't be afraid to sit on cash until you find a great opportunity. With that being said, though, man, this has been another episode of our podcast. We are back on our podcast. This is our new format. Again, we will have guests on in the future, but we're going to make sure we consistently drop content and talk about some of the things currently going on in the world of Black wealth and finance, because our thing is Black wealth and finance. And you better believe that this will have an effect on Black wealth. When others get a cold, we get the flu. So we got to be able to pay attention to what's going on in the news. And that's another thing I want to leave everybody with, Corey, is I know sometimes in our communities, in our culture, we say that ain't got nothing to do with us. It's going to hit you eventually, right?
All of that, anything that has to do with money is going to hit our communities.
Yeah,
100% chance that it's going to hit our communities.
absolutely.
Now there's at what level it hits our community is kind of, we can't always determine that, but it's going to hit our community. Like people are, because our community isn't homogenous, is not monolithic. It's, you know what I mean? Like it's diverse. And so everything that impacts our economy impacts part of our community. So
Absolutely. Yep.
Let's make it
All right,
happen.
so let's leave it at that, man. Make sure you rate, subscribe, comment, do all the great things you're supposed to do with content out there. Please share this, and give us some feedback about the new format, or maybe someone you want to have a conversation with us. But we appreciate the support that we get nonetheless, because it doesn't matter whether it's 1,000 of you or 20,000 of you. We appreciate all the support because, again, our thing is the community and just having great conversations, man. So with that being said, remember, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much you keep. Game elevates, and we'll see you guys on our next episode. Peace.